Hello gamers, I'm Ank, and in this past weekend I had a very wonderful surprise, in the form of a game called Farever. Me and my partner were looking for something to play, so we turned to Steam. We love MMOs, so we always try new ones out, and we found this indie game called Farever. It was cheap, the price of a burger, the reviews were mixed, it has stylized graphics, which are not my thing, it's early access, so it's not a complete product. All this being considered, it's fair to say that I had absolutely no expectations from this game, beyond an hour or two. I'd always try my best to keep an open mind, and moments like this are the reason for it. I'm extremely happy to admit I was wrong in my initial impressions. This felt like being at the beach, picking up a rock for the short-lived fun of making a splash in the water, and realizing you picked up a diamond. In this video, I will talk about this game, and if you have been looking for a new MMO to try out, hopefully my description will give you a good idea of what to expect from Farever, with a few obvious caveats towards the end of the video. Farever is an MMORPG where you are an adventurer, one of many, part of a new generation that returns to a forgotten realm. And that is where our adventure begins. It does feature a bit of lore, but maybe because it's early in development, it does not have a traditional main quest to follow. Which is a shame, because their approach to lore is that you are one of many adventurers, unlike most popular MMOs, they treat the player like the savior of the world, which obviously makes no sense, since there are thousands of other identical saviors. I would have liked to see a main quest that fits this concept, but who knows, maybe in the future they will have one. Just as you should expect, your journey starts by creating a character. This is done in a very basic character creator. Nothing impressive here, and choose one of the 4 available classes. These follow the popular archetypes of warrior, rogue, mage and priest, with more classes to follow in the future. Classes are a fundamental aspect of your character in Farever, and they will define the playstyles available to you. While this is an important decision, here you should choose whatever resonates with you based on your preference, as all classes are viable. The combat is action combat with chained attacks, blocks and dodges, as well as abilities based on both the weapons you choose to use and the class skills. While your class choice is essential and will define the kind of playstyles available to you, as I just said, I have to mention that there is a lot of variety in playstyles based on those choices. Let me give you an example so you better understand the depth of variation available in this game. Currently, I am playing a rogue tank with dual class priest weapons and dual class warrior gear. This basically gives me weapons that are focused on healing and gear that is focused on tankiness, while having my class skills that are focused on mobility, with my talents being focused on survival and lifesteal. This build has been working wonderfully for me, and it ends up with a tank build that is focused on lifestealing and dodging abilities. Of course, this is just one example. There is, in my opinion, an incredible amount of variety in playstyle that will be the result of those choices that I mentioned. Having a lot of freedom in your playstyle is something that we do not see often in most games, at least not in MMORPGs, and it is one of the reasons why this game feels so good. But it's not the only reason, so let's move on. The game has a decently sized world with a lot of exploration that gives verticality to the game. I will leave this element for each of you to explore if you choose to play the game, but there is quite a bit here, from minigames to chests, bosses, elites, resources to gather, and even secrets. In my opinion, they have done a great job creating an enticing world to explore. You will also find 2 types of dungeons in the open world. One of these types is the typical dungeon where you progress through a maze-like structure to reach a boss, and the other one is a more simplistic one with just a boss fight. They are fairly typical theme park content, however, I have to know that I have found the boss fight dungeons quite well done and fairly fun to do. I believe this was because they have nailed the mechanic versus tool element of them. The tools you have to use, as well as the mechanics the boss have, strike a good balance, which is not always the case in MMOs. That being said, they are still working on higher difficulties, those are not available yet. but I can say with a high degree of confidence that they will most likely be decent. I do look forward to seeing what extra mechanics they come up with. Of course, there's more. Other than this, the game also features 6 professions, fairly typical MMORPG stuff: collect resources and craft various things. This further expands the customization available with systems like enhancements that allow you to choose a variety of bonuses for each piece of gear, and also unique gear that only comes from crafting. However, at this time the profession system is incomplete and it does feel a bit bare bone, but it is expected as it is an early access game. While the profession system is basic and nothing revolutionary, it does something that takes me back to the earlier days of MMOs, or maybe to what survival games do nowadays. It does not have an energy system. Actually, the whole game doesn't have stuff like that. No limited entries or dungeons or anything like that, which means that you play when you feel like it. There is no pressure to log in and play every single day. This is both a good and a bad thing, but overall I think it is a good thing. It will result in lower player retention numbers, but those that do choose to log in will do so out of interest for the game and not a forced habit, which does end up with a more pleasant community. This might of course change in the future if the developers want to end up having higher player retention numbers. Moving on, the game also has mounts and gliders. These are functional elements, sadly they are very basic. Different mounts basically being identical to each other, functionally speaking, just being a speed buff. Nothing like an in-depth mount system similar to Guild Wars 2 or Black Desert. A surprising element related to this is that the game has a Transmog-like system. It records all the gear you collect and you can freely swap to achieve whichever look you prefer within the class restriction. I was quite impressed about this aspect since most games put the visual customization on the back burner, and this to me shows that the developers care about the experience their players are having. As someone obsessed with fashion, I 1000% approve of this. As we should all know by now, fashion is true endgame in MMOs. Speaking of fashion, the game has a cash shop. At this time, it only has a few items that are available at no cost. These items are meant to be rewards for those that support the game in early access, but in the future it will have more cosmetic elements that can be purchased with real money. I'm a bit torn about this, because it is good to see that they have their priorities straight and they focus on the game first rather than what is available in the cash shop. But personally, I would have liked to drop some money on their game because I'm having fun, so hopefully they consider at least putting something for sale in there. Overall, Farever just got released in early access earlier this month, and in my opinion, what they have showcased here is a very strong foundation for an MMORPG. What is available right now in-game is 20 player levels, 2 regions, each with multiple zones, each with a decent amount of exploration, and 10 dungeons. All in all, about 30 to 40 hours of content, multiplied if you decide to make multiple characters. In my opinion, well worth the price of £15. The developers have a roadmap for early access and plan to complete it within 1 year. This will include raising the level to 50, adding stuff like guilds, action houses, 2 more regions, new classes, new dungeons, and new difficulties for existing dungeons, new professions, 3 types of available weapons, more skills, more talents, and PvP features such as battlegrounds, PvP region, duels, and much more, as you can see on the roadmap on the screen. Another nice thing is they do actually take feedback from the community. On this very roadmap you will see a few things that will be added at the request of the community, such as the guild system, PvP region, duels, and probably more in the future. It's always nice to see developers that do consider feedback from the community. From the whole video, I think it's very obviously that I highly recommend checking this game out, but there are 2 major caveats. The big one is the graphical style. As someone that very much prefers hyper-realistic graphics, I can understand that these stylized graphics might not be for everyone, and there is no changing that. However, if you can overlook or even enjoy this graphical style, I think this game is a gem. Next is the elephant in the room. This game is very much in development, and while live service games by definition always should be in development, because when development for a live service game stops, it's as good as dead. That being said, this game is still in its early phase. This means that it will not feel like a complete product. If what you are looking for is an MMO that you can spend hundreds of hours in, then it's better to hold off on purchasing this game and wait for more updates. Don't get me wrong, there is a good amount of things to enjoy here and well worth the price, but it's not yet the full MMO experience, and a lot of things they will be adding during this early access period will go a long way towards that full MMO experience. So if you think around 40 hours is too little for an MMO, then you can wait until there is more to the game. The last thing I want to mention is that you should expect some bugs. Overall, the game is mostly bug-free, but there are some bugs here and there. For example, a material for the last level of cooking is not dropping. Take this with a grain of salt. In my time with the game, I have not experienced any game-breaking bugs, just minor ones, and overall my experience was pretty solid. Anyway, that's it for the video. Feel free to let me know what you think of this MMO, and if you tried it out, let me know if you liked it or not. Like and subscribe or don't. See you in the next one, gamers.